Wood is supposed to vanish. It cracks, rots, and disappears, especially over deep time. Yet one carved wooden figure survived in a peat bog for millennia and resurfaced like a message from a world before cities. The Shigir Idol is so old that it challenges the mental timeline people use for ancient. We can measure its age, reconstruct its form, and trace its tool marks, yet its meaning still refuses to stay pinned down. The Shigir Idol is a monumental wooden sculpture carved from larch and covered with geometric motifs and stylized faces. It was found as fragments and later reassembled, revealing a tall, plank-like figure with repeated facial forms and patterned surfaces. It's not a casual object, it's designed to be seen, read visually, and remembered. The big question is not whether it's intentional, but what kind of message its makers intended. In 1890, gold prospectors discovered the idol's fragments in a peat bog in Russia's Ural mountains. The pieces were recovered from waterlogged layers that protected organic materials far better than normal soil ever could. Reassembly showed this wasn't a single small carving. This was a large constructed figure made to stand. From the beginning, it looked like something that shouldn't have survived at all. Peat bogs can act like natural vaults: low oxygen, high moisture, and chemistry that slows decay. Instead of letting microbes erase wood, the environment can stabilize it, sometimes for astonishing lengths of time. That's why rare organic artifacts occasionally break through the usual archaeological limits. The Shigir Idol exists partly because nature performed preservation that humans could never plan. Today, the idol's reconstructed height is about 2.8 meters, but an early reconstruction based on additional fragments suggested it may have been around 5.3 meters originally. That matters because monumental isn't a vibe, it's labor, planning, and public visibility. A figure that tall would not be private decoration, it would dominate a space. Whatever it was meant to matter. Multiple stylized faces appear along the body, separated by bands of carved geometry, zigzags, lines, and angular forms. The carving isn't random, it's repetitive in a controlled way, like a structured visual system. But we should be careful. Structure doesn't automatically mean writing or a literal code. It means consistent symbolism, an intentional language of shapes that we can't fully translate. This was carved without metal tools, meaning stone implements shaped hard wood through patience and technique. Clean edges and consistent patterning imply practiced skill, not improvisation. The idol is a reminder that early does not mean simple-minded. The technology was limited, the craftsmanship was not. Radiocarbon dating places the Shigir Idol deep in the early Holocene, roughly 11,000 plus years old, with major studies reporting ages around 11,600 years. That makes it far older than the pyramids and one of the earliest known monumental artworks in any material, let alone wood. Dating doesn't tell us meaning, but it tells us something equally important. Complex symbolic objects appear very early in human culture. Its makers lived in a landscape of forests, wetlands, and seasonal movement, people whose survival depended on deep environmental knowledge. In that context, a tall carved figure could anchor social memory, a place marker, a ritual focus, or a teaching object. Those are plausible functions, but none can be proven without direct contextual evidence. What we can say confidently is that it was made to stand and to be encountered. We can infer public significance from scale and labor. We can infer symbolic intention from repeated faces and deliberate motif placement. But we cannot infer the exact story, deity, clan, or ritual from shapes alone. The idol is evidence of meaning-making, not evidence of a specific myth we can name. There's no bilingual key, no later text that quotes it, and no direct continuity we can prove. We're left with pattern analysis and comparisons to other prehistoric art traditions, useful but limited. This is why it feels like a locked message. The content is visible, but the decoding context is missing. Archaeology can date it, it can't resurrect the full cultural dictionary. Wooden monuments could have been common, then erased by decay everywhere except rare preservation environments. Stone and bone dominate museums because they survive, not necessarily because they dominated ancient life. The Shigir Idol might be a statistical survivor of a much larger lost tradition. That's why it's dangerous to treat it as a one-off curiosity. Because it was recovered in fragments, reconstruction involves real uncertainty. Which fragments belonged where, how motifs aligned, and what the full silhouette looked like. Earlier drawings and reconstructions matter because some pieces were lost after discovery. Each reconstruction is an informed model, not a perfect snapshot. The idol's mystery includes the fact that we may be missing parts of its visual grammar. Ancient waterlogged wood is fragile once removed from its stable burial environment. Conservation requires strict control of humidity, temperature, and handling to prevent warping and cracking. In a strange way, the idol survived thousands of years underground, and is now safer than ever, yet more vulnerable to sudden change than at any point in its buried life. The Shigir Idol forces an update to a common assumption, that monumental symbolic culture arrives only after farming in cities. Here we see monumental scale and complex carving associated with very early societies. That doesn't mean advanced civilization, in a modern sense. It means advanced symbolic culture, shared ideas, shared aesthetics, shared purpose, far earlier than most people expect. The Shigir Idol is a survivor, not just an artifact, a towering wooden figure carried through deep time by chemistry, darkness, and accident. We can verify its age and study its craft, yet its message remains partially sealed. That's the real mystery, an intelligent object from a world that left almost no readable explanations behind. Comment your best evidence-based interpretation, and subscribe to World of Mysteries.